The Caribbean island of Trinidad experienced one of the most significant flooding events in the past decade. Heavy rains that pounded the western part of the island since early morning caused river overflows, widespread inundation, and paralyzed public life in major cities such as Port of Spain, San Fernando, and Penal. This event is not simply an extreme weather phenomenon, but rather a reflection of a spatial planning and risk mitigation system that is not fully prepared for the intensification of tropical climate change. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Office, TT Met Office, has issued a yellow severe weather warning from 11:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time. This warning is based on the potential for heavy rain and thunderstorms triggered by unstable monsoon conditions. According to the TT Met Office, there is up to an 80% chance of heavy rain accompanied by strong winds and lightning, especially in western Trinidad. A converging wind system in the lower atmosphere and high humidity in the upper atmosphere create ideal conditions for the formation of massive cumulonimbus clouds. The rain began early in the morning and peaked around 2 p.m. In less than 6 hours, some areas recorded extreme rainfall of up to 200 millimeters per hour, a rate considered extremely high by international meteorological standards. Although the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, technically remains south of Trinidad, its northward migration has triggered intense local thunderstorm activity. Port of Spain, Trinidad's capital, was one of the most affected areas. Floodwaters paralyzed major roads such as Edward Street, French Street, Richmond Street, South Quay, Tragerete Road, Wrightson Road, Independence Square, and Hamilton Holder Street. Citygate Terminal, a major transportation hub, became inaccessible, forcing hundreds of residents to seek temporary shelter at bus stops, shops, and public buildings. In San Fernando, the Cipero River reportedly overflowed its banks, causing flooding on Chaconia Avenue and Independence Avenue. Several vehicles were swept away, and access to hospitals and schools was disrupted. In Penal and surrounding areas, Dumfries Junction, Palmiste Boulevard, Southern Main Road in La Romaine, and Union Hall were inundated with knee-deep water. The Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Khadija Amin, stated that while most of the flooding was temporary and quickly receded, some locations required further intervention. She highlighted the overflowing Cipero River as a critical point requiring cross-ministerial collaboration for long-term management. The flooding caused significant disruption to daily life. Schools were closed, public transportation services were temporarily suspended, and many residents were unable to go to work. Several homes suffered structural damage due to water entering living rooms and kitchens. Power was out in several areas due to substations being submerged. Landslides were reported in hilly areas such as Dybe and Maryville, blocking road access and raising concerns about slope stability. The Trinidad Met Office also warned of the potential for high waves and rough seas, particularly along the southwest coast. The Office of Disaster Preparedness, ODPM, reported that more than 1,200 residents were directly affected, with 300 of them taking refuge in community centers and public facilities. Emergency aid, including food, drinking water, and blankets, began being distributed by the Trinidad Red Cross and local volunteers. This flooding event highlighted several weaknesses in Trinidad's hydrometeorological risk management system. Rapid urbanization, land conversion, and a lack of green spaces have exacerbated the impact of the flooding. Narrow drainage channels clogged with garbage accelerate the inundation, while early warning systems have not yet reached all levels of society. According to analysis by the Trinidad Guardian, this flooding is not only the result of heavy rainfall but also a reflection of urban planning that is not yet adaptive to climate change. Many water catchment areas have been converted into residential and commercial areas, reducing the land's capacity to absorb rainwater. Environmental experts from the University of the West Indies recommended that the government immediately conduct a spatial audit of flood-prone areas and strengthen development regulations in watersheds. They also emphasized the importance of educating the public about disaster preparedness and using technology for real-time weather monitoring. After the floodwaters receded, the government announced the formation of a joint team to assess the damage and develop a recovery strategy. The Ministry of Public Works will prioritize repairing infrastructure such as bridges, roads, and waterways. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Works will expand emergency communication networks and strengthen logistical capacity to respond to similar disasters in the future. The Minister of the Environment also proposed an urban forest restoration and river rehabilitation program as part of a long-term strategy. He emphasized that this flood should be a turning point in how Trinidad views climate risk and sustainable development. Affected residents expressed their hope that the government would focus not only on emergency response but also on long-term prevention. Port of Spain resident Marcia Joseph said, "We are used to rain, but floods like this scare us. We need solutions, not just temporary relief." The massive flooding that struck Trinidad was not simply the result of heavy rains, but a reflection of the systemic challenges facing the island nation in the face of climate change and rapid urbanization. Extreme rainfall triggered by unstable atmospheric conditions caused river overflows, widespread inundation, and significant disruption to community life in Port of Spain, San Fernando, and Penal. Although most of the flooding was temporary and quickly subsided, its impact was palpable. Paralyzed transportation, damaged infrastructure, and disrupted social activities. This event exposed weaknesses in drainage systems, spatial planning, and community preparedness for hydrometeorological disasters. The government responded by establishing a joint team for recovery and evaluation, but residents and environmental experts emphasized that long-term solutions must include ecosystem restoration, spatial audits, and public education. This flood served as a reminder that climate adaptation is not an option, but a necessity. Trinidad now stands at a crossroads. Will it rebuild with the same approach, or will this event serve as a turning point toward climate resilience and wiser risk management? Within the floodwaters and mud, important lessons about the relationship between nature, people, and policy lie.
Yeah, when you start a flood already.